The Ted Rogers School of Management is committed to creating safe and welcoming spaces for Ryerson's Indigenous students, faculty, staff, and community through the Indigenous Healing Garden and art installation initiatives. Together with our community, we will respond to Canada's Truth and Reconciliation's Call to Action number 92 and define what business reconciliation looks like at Ryerson University and corporate Canada as a whole.
Back in 2018, Ryerson released a community consultation report that outlines 6 areas that we need to work on as a university. And these areas, these themes, they all center around increasing access and support for Indigenous learners. And they include specific calls to deepen our engagement with local communities, to draw attention back to the land and the water, and to establish dedicated spaces on campus for Indigenous activities. And this report has been guiding a lot of our work at TRSM in not only making the curriculum and the community more inclusive, but also the physical space. And we have this incredible courtyard, almost 12,000 square feet, that we can do something with.
We will begin by transforming the courtyard on the 7th floor of the TRS building into an Indigenous healing garden, creating a space for Indigenous activities on campus where we can revive, share, honor, and celebrate the knowledge of Indigenous peoples.
The Healing Garden project is over a year-long collaboration to transform this courtyard into an Indigenous healing garden. And I'm excited about this because I think now more than ever we need spaces like these on campus where people can go to just unwind and to really reconnect with this land. Another major consideration was growing concerns around the mental health and wellness of our students. Even before the pandemic, these concerns have been increasing exponentially, and spaces like these can be used to address many of these issues. And to me, that's what this is really about, is creating a space for healing and for knowledge sharing. And more than that, it's about creating a space for Indigenous knowledges to exist within TRSM, where our students are comfortable expressing their spirituality and don't feel as though they need to leave that part of themselves at home when they come here to study.
I'm really excited for the initiatives happening at TRSM around the Healing Garden on the 7th floor in the courtyard, because even though it's not necessarily on the ground, it supports Indigenous community members through using our traditional knowledge in terms of planting, in terms of medicines, and in terms of space and place, especially like place making, space making, through incorporating these traditional ways of knowing in the TRSM space.
In the past, the courtyard has been used as an urban garden to grow produce and serve our community over the years.
Currently, the urban garden operates out of the courtyard at the Ted Rogers School. When we initially piloted the garden back in 2017, there were only a couple of herbs being grown at the time for use in the kitchen. So what started off as 7 self-watering planters with a few plants in them in 2017 has grown to cover over 300 square feet of raised garden beds and yields tens of pounds of food that is donated back to our local community. I think the urban garden and really this space naturally began evolving into a healing garden a couple of years ago when we started to see the growth of things beyond just plants and food. It's grown and nurtured a relationship to nature, with ourselves, and with our community. And I think further development to build on what has already been created makes sense, and I'm so excited for what's to come.
In March of 2021, we hosted a series of community consultation workshops to better understand what our community wanted to see in the space. Now, as we move on to the construction phase, we hope that you will join us in the creation of the Healing Garden. At the same time, the Ted Rogers School is celebrating the artists and entrepreneurs who have shaped Canada's economic history. We will trace their story through Indigenous art.
Part of the art installation and why it's important to the community at Ryerson, Indigenous and non-Indigenous, with Ted Rogers especially, as you're entering that building off of Dundas, you have all of this empty space, these blank walls, and there's nothing in that space that connects anyone to the culture of the people who are Indigenous to these lands. there's nothing that really makes you think about your relationship to a settler colonial society. The goal of this art installation is not to only make Indigenous people feel welcome, it's to speak with the community and ask them, what stories do you want to tell with this art? What do you want to share through this art? What teachings are important to you? So by bringing this art installation into a space on Ryerson campus, we're attempting to say that we're guests on these lands and we want to celebrate the cultures of our hosts.
Alongside Ryerson's Indigenous faculty members, students, staff, knowledge keepers, community artists, and entrepreneurs, we invite you to join us in realizing these initiatives and creating a welcoming space for Indigenous students, staff, and the community at large. Visit our website to learn more about the Indigenous initiatives happening at the Ted Rogers School of Management and how you can get involved.